But again, number one, you have to be hungry for knowledge. I feel that a lot of times people get to a certain area and they feel like I already know everything I need to know. And so people got to be teachable. And that's number one thing for me.
Is teachable and coachable the same thing?
You got to learn to teach others. Okay. Being coachable is like, yeah, tell me what to do. Being teachable, I feel, is learning something so that you can teach it to someone else. And it's a different way of learning. When I'm just being coachable, it's almost like I'm being told what to do.
Right.
When I'm being teachable, it's like I'm being informed in a way that now I can go inform others. Gotcha. And that's how I learn.
Welcome to another episode here at the Trailblazers Talk podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Ortega, and we are committed to delivering content that inspires, motivates, and empowers you as an entrepreneur so you can continue to blaze your own trail to success. And I have a really special guest here with me today. I've known this guy for a few years now from social media. Believe it or not, we were Facebook friends. We were a part of a few mastermind groups, but I've always admired this gentleman. And I met him here when I moved to Las Vegas last year. And since then, man, I just seen him as a trailblazer. I've seen him grow in a very fast-paced industry. I've seen him partner with really big names. I've seen him develop as a growing father. And like, this man to me is somebody I look up to. And I want to encourage you guys, take notes. This is going to be a podcast that, yes, it's informative, but there's going to be so much wisdom laid out from somebody who's genuinely killing it in so many different areas. So I want to welcome Cesar to the show. He is a father. He is a leader. He is an entrepreneur. He is a husband. He's somebody who you need to really follow if you want to blaze your trail to success. So Cesar, welcome to the show, man.
Happy to be here, brother. Thank you for the invite. And likewise, man, the respect is mutual, man. I've seen what you're doing, the connections that you're building. And at the end of the day, you're a trailblazer. And so anybody that's real and actually making it happen, I want to contribute to that, even if it's a small part of whatever I can do to help you, anybody in your circle or your audience, man. This is what I'm about. Right?
Man, I appreciate that, brother. And it just means a lot coming from you. You know, for me, I've always just was so curious, bro. Like, when I look at entrepreneurs, when I look at people disrupting an industry, because I don't know how long you've been in solar. I think you've been in it for quite some time.
Yeah.
But
I stopped counting after a decade. It's like it's over a decade. Yeah.
But then you look at other people who's been in it longer than you, and they're kind of staying in one space where you're disrupting in ways. So I think when somebody disrupts the industry, they either disrupt it from a few different things. They disrupt it from an innovative approach, or they disrupt it from partnerships.
Right.
And I think you took the partnership route and you made some pretty big noises in your space. And I kind of want to start there, man. It's like to me, I've always been curious, bro, like why and how and what led you to build these relationships that you've had. And I'm just going to name drop it because, I think it's important. Like partnering with someone like Brad Lee, like people dream to partner with someone like him. They seek it, or they pay a whole bunch of money to do it. But I think you've done it in an organic, genuine way. So I'm just curious, like how, the why, the what, led you there.
Number one was mastering your industry. Okay. Right. When you work with people like that, like Brad, you cannot be an amateur at what you're doing. You have to be a master at your craft. And he is great at building those relationships and getting involved in industries where he might not be the master in, but his partners are. And so I'm just happy to have that collaboration with him. And my mentality has always been collaboration over competition.
Man, that's a bar, bro. You gotta say that for the people like in the back that's barely tapping in.
And sometimes people think, I just say that for the fun of it. But realistically, think about it. Isn't it a lot better to collaborate than to compete?
Right.
Amateurs compete. You see what I'm saying? Professionals collaborate.
Right.
See, a lot of these top wigs that you see, these motivational speakers, these serial entrepreneurs, they're all building companies together, a lot of these guys.
That's actually really true.
You know, they're cross-marketing with each other.
Right.
You know, they're coming in each other's podcast and they're bringing value to one another. So that's basically the concept that led to having the conversation with Brad. My other partner, Legacy Patino, he was operations manager with Brad for a long time, right? So that's where the relationship started. And when I brought him over to the solar space, and he basically mentioned to Brad, like, look,
Right.
I love working with you, but the solar over here is calling my name,
Right.
and the money potential over here is greater than working for you as an operational manager. And so that was the beginning of the conversation. And it also led to having the conversation with, now fast forward a year and a half later after we made that relationship with Apricot Solar. And you mentioned innovation. So relationships and innovation, I believe that Apricot has the best compensation plan in the industry, not just because it's the best price point, but
Right.
because it's transparent, it's
Right.
equal opportunity, it's production over politics.
Right. But you
Right?
did something special that I just want to kind of bring to the light here.
Yeah.
You partnered with Apricot Solar.
Yeah.
So if you look at your pattern here, bro, like you partner with Brad, you're partnered with Apricot, you're disrupting an industry through relationships.
Correct.
Like, I think people need to really, like, yo, if you're going to take notes, you got to take
Yeah.
notes right now.
It wasn't that I outsmarted the industry. It
Yeah.
wasn't that I invented anything special. We just built really good relationships.
Bro,
Yeah.
teach me. What is the secret to building these
But
relationships?
again, number one, you have to be hungry for knowledge. Number one, I feel that a lot of times people get to a certain area and they feel like I already know everything I need to know. And so people got to be teachable. And that's the number one thing for me.
Is teachable and coachable the same thing?
I mean, well, this is the thing. When you got to teach, or I should say, you got to learn to teach others.
Okay.
Being coachable is like, yeah, tell me what to do.
For yourself.
Being teachable, I feel, is learning something so that you can teach it to someone else. And it's a different way of learning. When I'm just being coachable, it's almost like I'm being told what to do.
Right.
When I'm being teachable, it's like I'm being informed in a way that now I can go inform others.
Gotcha.
And that's how I learn.
Gotcha.
Right? When I start learning something, of course I'm gonna get it, bro. I'm not dumb.
Right.
I'm gonna figure it out.
Right.
But I'm learning it to teach others.
Makes sense.
You see what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
So being teachable and understand that there's a lot there's so much that Brad brings to the table. There's so much that Dave Bangle brings to the table. I don't have that. I'm humble enough to understand like these guys are further ahead than me. How do I build a good relationship, and what can I bring to the table to help them?
That's
You
so
know,
good.
you see what I'm saying? And I knew what my skill set was in the solar space. I know what I bring to the table and the confidence I have within the solar space. Like if we talk about solar, and my confidence within me is I can kick anybody's ass. That's just
Right.
my own personal internal confidence. And if you don't have that, I feel bad for you because that means you're going to get your ass handed, right? And so when you have that posture, that confidence, that willingness to learn, that willingness to teach others, and understanding that you can learn so much more and be humble enough to learn from these guys that are ahead of you, I think that's a recipe for you to be an attractive partner to anybody that wants to collaborate with you.
Man, that's so good. I really think when you bring outside value that someone isn't getting, that, like what you just said, that creates, like, you're now an attractive partner because so many other people, I'm pretty sure they get pitched on a daily basis, Dave and Brad, on other people that could do what you do, but you just built the relationship differently.
Yeah. We talk about, my partner and I, about being the obvious choice. We
Right.
talk to our team about that. Like, hey, what makes you the obvious choice from a partner perspective, from a client perspective? What makes people say, I'm going with them? Yes, these are the guys I'm collaborating with. Yes, these are the guys that I'm putting solar on my house with when I could have gone with thousands of other companies out there. What makes you the obvious choice, right? And so when you constantly work on that, then you create value. You constantly create value because it's about reinventing yourself. It's about seeking knowledge, right? And some of the things that I like to bring up in the conversation is that doing things that require zero talent. You know, I
Doing
think
things that require zero talent.
a lot of times people we see talented people and we praise all the talented people in the world.
Right.
It's easy to, because they're the obvious choice, because
Right.
they're super talented and you can see that, but they're not necessarily the most successful all the time. You know, earlier before the show, we were talking about billionaires, right? And how a lot of times they're very simple. They're not necessarily the smartest. They're not necessarily, but they just have certain principles that they stick to. And I believe some of those principles are doing things that don't require talent, like being teachable, right? Like a lot of times people learn something and that's it. They feel like they figured that out. They're not open to gaining more information, or they don't want to go to those rah-rah events because they don't feel like they need any more knowledge in their space, or whatever the case might be. And so being teachable is like, dude, continue to learn. We're always have a student mentality, number one. Number two is having the courage to do things that that doesn't require talent, right? But having courage will help create those skills, and the talent will appear later. So I'll give you an example. I was scared to death. Sometimes, for anyone that has ever spoken on stage, you always get the jitterbugs and all that. Sure. But I learned how to turn instead of, like, before I used to get nervous and I'd be like, oh man, I can't go up there. I'm not going to be able to speak. I'm going to mess it up. I'm nervous. I can't do this. And in my early days, I straight up was that dude that got just stuck on stage. Like, really, bro? This dude can't even finish what he's trying to say. Wow. Is that dude shaking up there? I remember one time my wife and I got recognized for an award. It was a freaking award, and all we had to do is say our names and where we were from.
And just walk out. I
had to hold on, like, my arm, like I was holding on my arm with my other hand because it was shaking so much, because I was so in my head that I'm on stage. All these people are watching me, right? But I did it anyway.
Right.
So I took the courage to do something that at the moment I was scared of doing it. And most people want to wait till they're not scared anymore. And then guess what? That moment's never going to come, because you're going to be even more scared next time.
Man.
Because if you didn't do it, next time you're going to have that muscle memory in your brain, and it's going to be even harder to break through it. Man, so the point is, like, bro, have courage. It doesn't take talent. Who cares if you mess it up? You're not going to be, I messed it up. So you're not going to be the first one to mess it up or the last one, right? So just do it anyway. And it doesn't take any talent. But guess what? Once I had the courage to get on stage, now people tell me, like, bro, you're so good on stage.
Right.
Like, I didn't wait until I was good on stage to get on stage, is my point. You see what I'm saying?
Man, that's a bar.
And then the other thing is passion. I mean, really, how much knowledge, how many skill levels, talent level do you need to have passion? You know what I mean?
Zero.
But passion brings attraction, and next thing you know, there's certain talents and certain frequencies and energy that passion brings that all of a sudden it's considered a skill by others. Yeah. But in reality, it doesn't take any skills to have passion, just conviction. Good, you got to light yourself on fire.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
I think all of those characteristics builds attraction for other people, because we're talking about building relationships that could disrupt. Because I think any business, real estate, coaching, e-commerce, solar, whatever, they all have one thing in common, and it's relationships create breakthroughs. Like I'm a huge believer that if you're going through a challenge, you need one person to solve that for you. Yeah. And you never know, man. Like, what's that law? Is it 6 degrees away from someone we need? Right. So
like
we're 6 people away.
Yeah.
From that
I call it 7. I've always used go 7 levels deep. Maybe because 7's my favorite number. I don't know. But
maybe it's 7 degrees. It could be that.
Think about it. I mean, if you go 7 levels deep, I do that exercise. It's funny you say that, right? I do that exercise where there's certain individuals that are productive in our business, that are valuable to our business. And then I start reverse engineering, like, where did that contact come from? Who introduced me to them? And then I go backwards, and some of the best contacts are past 7 levels deep. Wow. And so a lot of times you meet one person and you want that one person to be it. But it's not who you know, it's who they know. And going levels deep and building those relationships is crucial. And a lot of times people miss it because they're only one dimensional. They see the layer just here instead of going deep and tap rooting and network marketing. In my early years, I was in network marketing from like the age of 19. We call it tap rooting, because now, if you find someone 7 levels deep, that's good. All of a sudden that influences everybody upward.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And maybe there's 6 duds, but that somehow you met a stud 7 levels deep. And that helps encourage the duds to become studs now because they want a piece of that stud themselves. Yeah. Right. And so even this morning, I was connecting people like, hey, so I think this play would work.
Constantly like, is your day-to-day like non-negotiable, like you have to be constantly like building relationships and going
every day, bro, deep? Since I was 19. I was actually thinking about this driving over here because, once you start talking, I'm gonna be here. I'm like, what should I talk about? Since I was 19, my first network marketing company that I was a part of, I don't know if there's been a week that I haven't recruited somebody.
Really?
So it's been like half of my life. And even before then, I just always was the guy organizing, bringing people together since, like I was a kid. Yeah. It was just part of my natural, because I would always play sports, team sports. So for me, it's boring to do things by myself. So I like team sports.
Competitive advantage.
Yeah, I like team sports and I like winning.
Okay.
So then I like putting people together, talking about winning. Yeah. So to me, it's just like common sense and simple concepts that I feel that's why I'm good at it. Yeah. Because to me, it's not even work. It's like, I'm not working, dude. It's Sunday. Who cares? It's someone's birthday. It's my birthday. Yeah. I don't feel 100%. Okay, that's fine. Do I feel fine enough to grab my phone and text some people and make some connections? Yeah. Right. The other day I was pitching a solar deal virtually on my couch while I was getting an IV because I was sick. Oh, yeah. But I still pulled it off. I coughed like 6-7 times, but I told them up front, look, I'm sick, but you're important to me and I didn't want to miss our appointment. So here I am. Yeah, that's commitment. And sometimes people call me, they're sick, and it's like, bro, okay, cool. Like, I hope you get better, but are you telling me you're sick because now you're giving yourself an excuse to be MIA for a week? Mm. When you stop building, you know what I'm saying? It's like the New York Stock Exchange. Imagine it's like, dude, the New York Stock Exchange calls in sick.
Yeah, the whole world gets
Walmart
broken.
calls in sick.
Yeah,
Apple calls in sick. Like, are you trying to build a brand that big, or you don't have enough respect for yourself?
You just laid out something that could, as simple as what you just said, could change the dynamic of everybody listening to this. Because I know so many entrepreneurs, when they're sick, they're off the grid
or on vacation.
Yeah, and it's almost like, a lot of people feel disrespectful when you can't communicate. Like, it's like if I'm trying to communicate with you and you're on vacation, or if you're sick, it's almost like, bro, just give me my space. But the reality, what you just said, is like, hey, does Apple call in sick? Does
Apple's on vacation? Sorry, Apple's on vacation. Like, no.
If we want to be an entrepreneur, we got to be uncomfortable. We have to be committed.
Because the reality, that's the expectation of the marketplace.
That's a fact.
We didn't come up with that. Yeah. That's the expectation of the marketplace.
You got to show up. Like, bro, I didn't even say this morning because I didn't want you to feel bad, but like, I didn't sleep. My daughter had a seizure last night.
Oh, wow.
And like, I had no sleep. But just like you said, this Apple, like, I still show up regardless of. If I could show up, I'm going to show up. Yeah. If I can't, it has to be like, yo, I really can't show up. It has to be almost to the feeling of like, there's no way I could, there's no way I could text back. But you have to show up, bro, because you're building a brand. You're building a business.
Correct.
This moment of showing up is going to add to that future success down the road.
Bro, and you have initiative. That's another thing. Yeah. Initiative doesn't require any talent. You just got to be willing to do it. Yeah. Half the battle is showing up. Bars. And so many people don't show up. You know what I mean? Having that initiative of, I'm going to do it regardless. I'm going to do it no matter what.
Right.
And so I think that's something that I've always had the initiative, man. I don't wait on nobody. If I bring someone on board I don't count on anybody to be my hero. Mm-hmm. I'm my own hero, bro. You got to have the initiative of like, so many people are like, bro, only if I can recruit this guy or bring this guy on board or have this play on board. Like, bro, you got you. Right. And you is all you need. Yeah. But you need to have the initiative. And it's funny how, the people that don't have initiative is because they usually don't want responsibilities, because having initiative comes with responsibilities.
They just want the benefits of having responsibilities.
And if you notice, like, people that are not responsible don't have initiative, because you cannot have initiative without responsibilities, because initiative triggers responsibilities. And that's the real problem there. Most people are lazy and they don't want the they want someone else to have the responsibilities, but they want to somehow position themselves and still be a part of it. Right. And so, no, you can't wait for someone else to have the to initiate anything for you. You got to have that yourself. And again, that's another thing that doesn't require talent, but people will sit there and wonder what or how and what. Dude, just show up. What is it like? For example, in our space, it's prospecting. You either dialing on the phone or you're knocking on doors. Well, it's not complicated, but people want an easier way, and then they have lack of initiative, and now they have, the lack of responsibilities, and that's where a lot of times people use how they feel currently reflects their action and their behavior. But realistically, it has to be the opposite way. Your behavior and your actions have to determine your feelings.
And why do you, I agree with you, but I want to ask, why do you believe that?
Well, because look, feelings and emotions are a crazy thing.
Right.
In our head. Like, we all have these things going on in our head. Right. But if you wear your emotions and feelings on your sleeve, and now you start behaving and going about your business based on your emotions, good luck. Good luck, bro. Because nobody cares. At the end of the day, nobody cares, bro. Like, the market does not care. And I hate to say it this way, that you didn't get any sleep last night. And that's why you're here, because you understand that. You have that initiative, and you understand that your feelings are not what's going to drive your behavior.
Facts.
Because I bet you felt like just staying home and sleeping.
Yeah.
But your behavior brought you here. Now your feelings and emotions are different, because it's like you almost feel better about yourself, because it's like, even though I went through that and I could have slept in, I decided to show up because I said I was. So now you're behaving in a different manner based on your expectations of yourself. So if we operate under our future expectations instead of our past experiences, then we're heading the right direction. Most people, however, want to operate based on their past experiences and their past trauma and their past, dude, I didn't get sleep last night, so today I'm going to behave like this, and I'm wearing my emotions like that.
I see what you're saying now.
Versus you focusing on your behavior and expectations, because in your office, it says millionaire mindset. So I know your expectations are led by a certain standard, which triggers your behavior, which then creates your emotions.
Good how you're saying that. It's like you're reverse engineering what someone wants to get.
And I think that's what successful entrepreneurs have figured out. If you ask me what's the difference from a successful and unsuccessful entrepreneur, is that we are driven by our expectations, not our past experiences. We're driven by our behavior, not our feelings.
And I think that's good, man. I think a lot of people are driven by feelings today. And like, it's like, I don't feel like doing this today because this happened last night, so I'm going to be in my feelings today. But the reality is, if I go to, Starbucks and I order a coffee, I don't care what the person went through. I just want them to make my coffee.
Feelings are childish. Feelings are for children.
But if you think about on the day-to-day, everywhere you go to buy something, you're not thinking about what this person's going through. You're just thinking about, give me what I'm paying you to get. So I can move on with my day.
And I mean, going back to, it's like the lack of maturity, brother. Like, people got to understand, you don't just get older and understand things. Maturity is controlling your feelings.
That's a bar.
You know what I mean? And so
but controlling them with intention, though. You have to have the right intention.
Yeah, you have the right intention, but it's like, look, I have an 11-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter. They wear their feelings and emotions
100%
on their sleeve. But as they become young adults, part of the lessons is going to be like, look, you got to control these emotions, and you got to have a certain behavior. And if you want these emotions to go away, you got to start acting as if they're gone. if you're sad, you got to start acting happy.
Yeah.
Act the way you want to be, and soon you'll be the way you act. You see what I'm saying?
Bar.
And so it's so crazy to me for these people that want to be entrepreneurs, they want to have financial freedom and all this, but it's like, bro, your behavior, your expectations are not aligning to what you want.
Yeah.
And so unless we point these things out, not to throw them under the bus, not to discourage them, but to encourage them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's the other side of it. Like, edifying people and encouraging people doesn't cost you any money, and it doesn't require any talent to do that.
Right.
So whenever you catch yourself in your feelings, this is a hack for me, and I share this with my team all the time. Like, look, whenever I'm starting to feel foggy or starting to feel down or any of these things, I'll call somebody and be like, hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? Oh, this and that. And usually, like, you know, people start opening up and start getting vulnerable.
Right.
And so I start speaking life into them.
But you're the one that
and then I
needs
fill
life.
up my cup.
Yeah, yeah.
Before I'm done on that call, I'm so
that
fired
is
up.
so good.
When I
love
hang
that.
up, dude, I already forgot what the hell was wrong with me.
And now you're
and now I lit
it's a
myself on
collaboration
fire.
energy now.
I needed
between
that conversation as much as they needed.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
man,
saying?
that's so
I don't
good.
sit there with the moment I start feeling down, bro, I pick up the phone and I call somebody and I pick them up, and by default it picks me up.
That's a bar.
It's a hack. It's so great. I've always, bro,
Do you feel like texting works just as well, or is it?
I'm a conversation guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to pick up the phone.
Yeah, because the words, the sound, the emotion of that conversation
Right.
picks up a certain energy and frequency that a text message won't. You know what I mean?
That makes
And things get lost in text messages, right? Like, sometimes people get offended on a text message, like, bro, that's not what I meant. Call me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I text message because we just have to, leverage time sometimes. But when I really want to get my point across and I really need that conversation, it's a phone call for sure.
Yeah, man, that's good, bro. I think that's another like hidden gem that people think like to achieve this goal of feeling better, it's going to take this monumental moment or something like, the golden bullet or whatever, a magic wand. But it's as simple as, hey, calling somebody and asking them how they're doing. And that's a hack.
Edification was probably the most important thing I learned early on.
Okay.
When I joined network marketing, James Williams, still a really good friend of mine, we still do business together to this day. He was like the master of edification and talking highly about others. Don't talk highly about yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you talk highly about yourself, that's called bragging. If you talk highly about someone else, that's edification.
Okay.
And then if they return the favor, now we're collaborating, and that's where the magic is at. That's where people want to be part of that.
Yeah,
because
so good.
if I'm edifying you and you're edifying me, it's a different type of attraction to
Right.
others than if we sit here talk highly about ourselves.
I've realized that even at events and like masterminds and stuff like that, everybody's always edifying someone else, and that makes you go, oh,
yeah, they
this person-
downplay their own success and
Yeah.
edify everybody else.
So that's a strategy.
It's definitely a strategy, but you got to live it. You can't just be fake about it. You
Right.
can't just say, oh yeah, I got to talk highly about someone else.
You got to do it outside of that space.
You got to
too.
really find what are those things that you can highlight about those people
Yeah.
so that you can genuinely talk about it and edify them amongst others.
I see.
And that's how it actually works.
Do you edify people? Let's just say we're at dinner, and are you edifying someone who's not in the room? Like, are you constantly?
Yeah, I mean, if the conversation leads to that, and we're talking about somebody, absolutely. Yeah, I've edified people while they're not in the room all the time.
Has people vice versa done that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that and that's part of that's how the magic happens, right? And you live in that energy of edification, right? And so my best partners, the most trusted people, my inner circle, that's how we roll, man. We are, it's about edifying everybody else.
I think that is a high level play once you've done like decades of business and understanding relationships is when you start to play that way. But I equally think if you're not there yet, like let's just say you're starting or you're building some momentum, I think if you could take one thing from this podcast, the art of edification is so powerful.
Yep.
Because if you start to edify other people and they start to get referred business when they're not in the room, it's almost like, why am I not doing this for you now?
Yep. Absolutely.
And that changes everything.
Yeah, and speaking life into people, man. It's so easy to get caught up with all the negative stuff. I mean, if you follow, I don't, but I come across just to see like what the hell are people watching nowadays. For example, like, you know, the presidential debates and all this and all these candidates. It's really just a bunch of mudslinging against each other.
Right.
And it's all about de-edifying. So what are they teaching us?
Talking down on each other.
We see our politicians de-edifying each other. We hear music de-edifying, you know, the community, de-edifying women, de-edifying the culture, whatever the case might be. We see it in movies, right? These people de-edifying each other. So then it becomes a programming where we feel like, yeah, man, it's all about de-edifying the next guy to make myself look better, right? And it's the opposite of what we should be doing. And I'll share this quick story. You know, when I was back in my network marketing days, I got off to a big start. You know, I was like the youngest executive director for the company, this, that, and the other. Fast forward, you know, I hit a slump, the sophomore slump, right? Where what got me there wasn't taking me to the next step, and I just couldn't figure it out. And so, you know, I lost my team, I lost my car, I started eating bad food, so I couldn't fit in my suits anymore because I had it. I mean, I'm telling you, I had it going on. I was like 20, 21 years old, driving a nice car, dressed up in suits, doing presentations for everybody, like living it up. My business was growing, but then I didn't duplicate myself, and I stopped doing the things that got me there, right? I actually stopped being that hungry because once I was there, I felt like I arrived. Now it was up for my team to do it, and then they were just going to rise me up to the next level. But there was so much work to be done still. I was just too naive and didn't have the mentorship around me to point me to the right direction. As a matter of fact, the mentorship around me was kind of getting jealous of the fact that they were in their 30s and I was in my early 20s, seeing the same or even more success than they were having. And so, but that's a whole nother story. But I remember, you know, I kind of, because of that, I went away from that company for a couple years. And the mentor named Dave Savola, he was like the top money earner in that company. He was like a high school football coach and just great guy overall. He would light up the room, bro. Like he would walk in and the room would lit up. And his smile, his energy, his aura, he was just, what was he doing? Edifying everybody in the room, finding something to compliment you about.
To this day, you're talking about.
And to this day, I'm talking about him. And so, look, so I get a call from one of the partners in that company, and he starts talking to me about getting back involved with the company, this and that. And during this time, I think that was during the stretch where I had to call my parents and figure out and work for my dad and stay with them for a while, because I went from having a luxury apartment in Phoenix to have to go move back to Yuma and start from nothing. And it was, so I went from, you know, making really good money to like having a negative bank account. And so when that phone call happened, and he was telling me about getting back into the business, I wasn't really trying to hear it. And he says, you know what, let me call Dave, see if he answers. So sure enough, Dave Savola answers the phone. And, you know, I felt bad because I hadn't really done anything with them. And I'm like, dude, Dave's not even going to remember me. You know what I mean? And, and the guy gets Dave on the phone. He's like, Mr. Savola, I have Cesar Delgadillo on the phone. And I'm like, you probably don't even remember. Hey, Cesar, how's it going, brother? Like, how's everything in Yuma and this and that? You know, I noticed his voice sounded a little different, but nevertheless, the energy was great. And, you know, I just told him, you know, like, dude, I just been having a hard time. People don't really believe in my opportunity. My parents don't agree with what I'm doing. My mom wants me to go back to college, and it's just kind of been tough to get things off the ground, you know? And, you know, I don't feel like anybody's got my back in this opportunity right now. And then he's like, you know what, son, like, first of all, you've done some great things in this company that nobody ever done at your age. You know, you've proven to us and to others that you are more than worthy, that you can make this happen. And who cares who has your back? I got your back. I got your side. I got your front. Like, we got you covered. And if you want to jump back with us, let's roll. Let's make it happen. I appreciate you. I thank you for everything you've done. And the Savola family we're here for you, brother. And I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. That was Dave Savola, you know? So we hang up the phone and everything. I'm like, all right, Dave, I appreciate it, man. I really needed that. Looking forward to seeing you soon. We hang up the phone. And then my buddy says, Cesar, you're not going to see Dave Savola again. Dave Sevula's in his deathbed.
Wow.
And he passed away like a couple days later. And to me, that was a lesson of like, bro, if somebody can be speaking life while they're dying.
Wow. 2 days later.
What can we do while we're living?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
Man.
that conversation always stood with me when I want to have excuses, when I want to, oh man, I feel sick. Maybe I should take a day off. Maybe I shouldn't do this. It's like, maybe I should, get into my feelings and get into that. It's like, no, bro. It's like this dude was dying and speaking life to me all the way to the final minute because it wasn't an act. It was a lifestyle. That was his language.
Wow. That is so good. It's not a lifestyle. It's your language.
No, you can't just pretend to be a leader. Either you speak leadership or you don't.
It's a decision.
Yep.
You have to decide. Man, that's good because there's so much. I mean, man, there's so many moments where like you don't match the brand. Like it's a decision. Like today, I could have texted you, "Hey, we're not going to do this," and it won't match the brand, right? But like showing up and making it not just a lifestyle but a language, that is crazy. I've never heard anyone say it that way before, but it makes so much sense.
Well, I mean, I didn't know after he did that. I didn't know what other way to put it or how to explain it because it's like, bro, I know people that are so negative. They just woke up today and they're so mad because they don't have what they want or this and that. And it's like, bro, Brad Lee talks about it all the time. If I give you $10 million today, you'll be flipping out. Some of you guys wouldn't be like, oh my God, it's my thank you, Lord. Right. But if I told you after I give you those $10 million, you won't wake up tomorrow. Will you still take the 10 million? But yet we are not just as excited every single day and appreciative to just wake up and have another day as we are getting a $10 million check. But our life is worth more than that 10 million. Another day is worth more. You think millionaires and billionaires wouldn't, if every day cost them $10 million, you don't think they'll spend every single last dime until they can't afford it anymore? Of course. Yeah. So at the end of the day, life itself is more valuable than money.
I want to say something on that because I had somebody years ago share something similar. I was at this mastermind and the speaker was like, there's a check on he actually did. There's a check on the table for like $1 million. Yeah. It was literally his check. Like, bro, he signed it and everything. He's like, there's a check for everybody in this room for $1 million. You guys could cash it, but there's going to be a second piece of paper being sent to you to sign that you're going to end your life in 24 hours. He's like, if you guys cash this money, you're going to die tomorrow. So in that moment, when people saw the checks, he waited like 10 minutes or something before saying that other part. Yeah. And everybody was like feeling a certain type of like, this guy's really giving me $1 million. Oh my God, my life is changed. So what he said in that moment was this. He said, for the past 10 minutes, your feelings have shifted. The money wasn't in your account. Mm-hmm. There was just a check, and it was a prop check.
Right.
He's like, it's not even it's a prop check. But you believed your life is about to change, and your feelings changed drastically in 10 minutes. Before I told you that you got to sign a paper, and your life is done. Right. So I think what's important, and what I've learned from that, is the energy of knowing that money's about to hit your bank account is something you could create yourself. Yeah. You don't need the physical money.
You can manifest.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like, you don't need the money in your bank account
to get that feeling.
Yeah, to get that feeling.
Yeah. No, that's another life hack, right? Yeah. Because it's true. Sometimes it's the feeling of having something greater than actually having it. Right. And so I've experienced it, right? The feeling of having a particular car was greater than when you actually have it a few days later and you're like, okay, cool. It is a cool feeling to have this ride. Yeah. But the anticipation leading up to even having it when you don't.
I mean, that's why they say like, when you actually get what you actually want, like there's nothing different.
Right, right.
But that feeling, that anticipation,
The pursuit of
imagine if people live like that on a daily basis, like having that energy of like what's about to happen or where they're growing towards, or millions of dollars that will hit their account, like knowing that. Just living, I just feel like living in that energy, man, is that language barrier is like, what's your language?
Right.
How are you actually living? Like, not your lifestyle, but what's your language?
Yeah.
And I think you just hit something that changes the game for everybody listening to this podcast. Is, are you deciding to live the language of success, or are you deciding to live the language of poverty and the opposite of success?
Yep. Our tongue is a powerful thing, brother. Our words are things. Words become things.
Facts.
And if you keep speaking that lazy language, if you keep speaking that de-edification, if you keep staying in your feelings, then there's no surprise you're not going to excel or live the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
So,
bro, there's been so much gems here, man. And a lot of, I mean, it doesn't matter what type of business you're in. Edifying people will pay you 10x in the game of business. Like, relationships are literally everything.
Yep.
When I look at you, bro, I look at you as somebody who has mastered the art of networking.
Oh, appreciate that. I mean, and it's always a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
And I think they talk about that, right? People that are masters or something always feel like they got to keep learning.
Yeah.
And the posers are acting like they're masters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
So
true.
by no means will I always say that about myself, that
Yeah.
I've mastered networking. I'm just a student of the game.
Yeah. Are you, like, who are you learning from, right? Because everybody has a coach or everybody's learning from somebody. Like, who are some people you're constantly...
Well, I call it like taking sample sizes.
Okay.
You know, from my godfather passed away when I was a kid, but I took a sample size of his success that carries with me till now.
Okay.
Dave Savula, who I mentioned,
Yeah.
I take pieces of that sample that I witnessed and use it today. James Williams, my friend that I've been buddies with for like 20 years almost now.
Wow.
Right? And edification. I mean, I was at a convention with him, and he was a big deal with that company at that point, as young as he was at 23 years old back then, and I was maybe 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to edify him that we were running into. All he would do is get out of the way and point to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So taking sample sizes and of course all the gurus that I've followed throughout the years, the Brad, the Cardones, and Wolf of Wall Street, people that you can pick certain things, the good, the bad. There's good, and you might not agree with everything, right? I might have dropped some names that some people might frown upon for whatever reason, but obviously they did something well.
Right.
So I don't judge people's life. I just take whatever sample size suits me that can benefit me, and I credit that to be able to shape and build the direction that I'm going.
Yeah.
Whether I agree with everything else that they do or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From the Ty Lopez, from the, you name it, right? Because obviously they got to a certain level because they did certain things right.
Yeah.
Whether, people follow them or agree with 100% of everything they do, no. Do I agree with everything Brad talks about and everything he does? I mean, he's good, and for the most part, yes, but there's certain things where I might not necessarily align with that, but it doesn't mean I'm going to judge that over all the other gems that he's provided, right? So I like taking sample sizes of what people will bring to the table that I feel that I can, carry with me moving forward.
Yeah,
So.
Man, that's so good. And another thing too, man, you're all like, I think it's important also to be around circles, right? Not just, you could take from content too, but like being around circles, being at events, being at masterminds. And like the pattern I've seen you do is you're always in different circles. Either there's masterminds happening in Vegas, like you're always like kind of...
and the exciting thing for me for events is not necessarily the speakers that are going to be there, is the next business partner I'm going to meet. Because there hasn't been one event where I don't collaborate with somebody.
So you have the mindset that I'm going to meet somebody that we're going to do something
Yeah,
together.
because it's happened every single time I go to an event. I meet
Right.
somebody. And even though some people, it takes 2 years down the road when we
Really?
finally did something. Some people, it was the next day. Some people, it was the same day. But I always leave with connections from these events because I'm intentional when I shake somebody's hand. I'm intentional to meet people and to see if it's a good fit for us to collaborate somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, of course, there's always new information or old information with a new mindset. Right. So just because I heard that before when I was 25, maybe when I was 30, it was different. I got the information. And then when I was 35, same information, different mindset. So now I do more with that information than I did when I was 25. Because application is really what counts. And maybe I heard it 10 years ago, but I didn't apply it. Maybe I even wrote it down on my notes, but I didn't open it up again and never applied it to my day-to-day business. But now it's like, dude, 10 years later, it's finally hitting me. I got to do this or else I'm not going to get the results I want. So sometimes it's not seeking new information because it's kind of like the same information at the end of the day when it comes to mindset. Now there's new business opportunities, there's new technologies, there's new connections, right, that you can look forward to at these events. But most importantly, I think is the relationships, going back to that, that can be made out of those. Because you think about it, when you meet people in this arena, a lot of them have the same intentions and the same mindset. So now we're in the same frequency to be able to collaborate versus me meeting somebody at a football game or at a bar or something, which you can still make relationships and connect that way. But when you go to an entrepreneur event, that's what people are there for. Facts. They're looking for that. They're looking for someone to have a conversation and talk about collaborations. You just got to open your mouth. You got to stick your hand out. You got to, make the point of contact. And so, I love going to events because I know just this one in Dallas, there's like at least 3 relationships that are on top of my head right now that I'm like, I got to follow up with them. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm going to Puerto Rico at the end of the week. I met 2 people from Puerto Rico, both of them multimillionaires. And I'm going to reach out to them once I get to Puerto Rico. You see what I'm saying? So if I didn't go to Dallas, those connections wouldn't exist if I would have said no to that event. So of course you can't make it to every event, but I would say go to as many events as you can. Especially if you're in the Vegas area, the events come to you.
Facts. Events are happening every day. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Man, that's so good, bro. We had, I feel like this was a really good conversation, bro. And just so many different like dynamics of like relationships, and there's been so many gems in this podcast, and I just want to like thank you for just opening up, bro, and like
thank
really
you for having me, brother.
Being here and showing up and showing out. It's been so good. We are getting to the tail end of this podcast, and I always ask a question to end it, and the question that I think this is good. I think this is the last, if not one of the last episodes of this season, and then the questions will change for the next season. But the question is this: if your whole existence is completely wiped out. I mean, like, you can't Google you. There's no social media. Everything's gone. Like, you're like gone. Like, you've never existed. But you're able to write on one piece of paper, like one line or a short paragraph, and that piece of paper is framed in the Hall of Heroes for the rest of eternity that represents you. What would that piece of paper say?
Wow, it's in one piece of paper. It's a lot to put in a short phrase, but I would say keep it real. Keep it real. You know what I mean? Because be authentic. And in other words, like, live your life. Don't live anybody else's. So just be real, be you, and you're enough, man. And at the end of the day, that's it. Because all this other stuff, it's we're like a part of a big movie. You know what I'm saying? We're a part of this big sequence and all these moving pieces. And everybody tries to tell us what's cool, what's not. Like, you're the only you. You know what I mean? So it's important that people are real to themselves. They're real to others. And that's what creates this experience we call life, because everything else is basically Hollywood, bro. Like, you turn on the news, they want to tell you what to think. You watch TV, you watch the movies, you listen to music. Everybody's got their opinion, and it's easy to end up trying to be someone you're not.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So if I had to just put it all in, sum it up, is be real, be you.
Yeah, man, that's so good, man. I just want to say thank you for showing up on this podcast, bro. That last part was good, because being you, being real, keeping it real, is how you build relationships, is how you actually rise up in industries. And I feel
it's not just our company name, bro. It's a lifestyle.
Oh, that's a fact.
You know
I
what I'm
forgot it
saying?
was a company name.
So,
yeah.
hey, just had to throw that in there. It wasn't just a branding plug.
A shameless plug.
So,
but man, that was
it's
good.
real. It's real, man.
Yeah.
It's our lifestyle, and it's what we believe.
Yeah.
So,
man, I appreciate that. And everyone tuned into our podcast today. I appreciate you guys. I think this is going to be episode 10. And if, like I said, this may be the last of the season. I think there might be one more. But I appreciate you guys tapping in with us for this first season. It's been exciting. It's been long. And the second season is going to be crazy. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. If you're on Spotify or Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, whatever, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, because here at Trailblazers Talk, I'm telling you that second season is going to be crazy. So thank you guys so much for supporting us to this episode, and we'll see you on the next episode at Trailblazers Talk.